The first thing I remember about the Battle of Karo's Reach is the sound. Not the roar of plasma cannons or the shriek of rail slugs cutting through atmosphere. Those were expected. No, it was the sound of 1,000 voices shouting at once, layered with fear, rage, and desperation, all echoing inside my helmet as my suit's sensors tried to filter the chaos into something intelligible. Karo's Reach was supposed to be a routine reclamation, an abandoned trade corridor on the edge of Coalition space, lightly contested, low strategic value. That was the briefing. What Command didn't mention was that 3 factions had decided the Reach was theirs on the same day, and none of them were willing to walk away. I was a lieutenant then, 26 standard years old, leading 3rd Company's left flank. My armor bore the scratches of a dozen prior engagements, but my hand still shook as I tightened my grip on my rifle. Veterans will tell you the shaking never really stops. You just learn to fight through it. Across the shattered plain, the enemy lines shifted like restless animals. The Varelian mercenaries crouched behind wrecked transports, their chitinous armor glinting green. To our right, the Seraph Dominion's shock troops advanced in perfect formation, banners of burning red light floating above them. Somewhere behind us, Coalition artillery prepared another volley that would crater the earth even further. "Hold position," came the order through the comms. "Wait for my mark." The air tasted like ionized metal. Smoke hung low, broken only by tracer fire and the occasional explosion that turned bodies, human and alien alike, into silhouettes of fire. Then everything went wrong. A Seraph forward unit broke formation and charged early, their heavy cannons spinning up. The Varelians answered instantly, unleashing a barrage that tore through the no-man's land between us. Coalition artillery fired without confirmation, and the sky itself seemed to rip apart. The battle became a storm. My squad moved by instinct more than command, diving into craters, returning fire, dragging wounded soldiers out of open ground. I shouted orders until my throat burned, even though the comms carried my voice perfectly. Fear makes you loud. That's when the light appeared. At first, I thought it was another orbital strike, an overcharge from one of our ships misfiring. A column of white-blue brilliance descended from the sky, cutting through smoke, ash, and debris as if the battlefield were nothing more than a projection being peeled away. The ground beneath it didn't explode. It didn't burn. It simply cleared. Weapons fire faltered as sensors across all factions screamed warnings. Targeting systems lost luck. Energy readings spiked beyond anything our databases could classify. And then she was there. She stood at the center of the battlefield, where moments ago 3 armies had been trying to annihilate each other. Full armor, seamless and radiant, forged of something that reflected the light without blinding us. Tall, nearly 7 feet, but not bulky. Every plate fit her form like it had grown there. Her helmet was crested, elegant, with a faceplate that shimmered between opaque and transparent, revealing calm, luminous eyes beneath. She carried no visible weapon, yet every soldier who saw her knew, down to their bones, that she was the most dangerous presence any of us had ever encountered. One by one, weapons lowered. It wasn't an order. No commander shouted ceasefire. No treaty activated. Hands simply let go. Rifles clattered to the ground. Energy cannons powered down. Even the Seraph, genetically conditioned for obedience and aggression, froze mid-step. I watched a Varelian mercenary drop his plasma blade and fall to his knees, mandibles clicking in something like prayer. Silence spread outward from her position like a shock wave. My heart hammered so hard I thought my suit would register it as a system fault. "Command," I whispered, forgetting protocol. "Do you see this?" "We see it," came the reply, barely audible. "All units stand by." The armored woman raised one hand. The gesture was simple, unhurried. But the battlefield reacted as if she had grabbed reality itself and squeezed. Smoke dissipated. Fires guttered out. Even the distant thunder of artillery ceased, as though the guns had decided, collectively, that this was not a moment to intrude upon. Her voice carried, without amplification. Enough. One word, spoken softly. Yet it echoed across the reach, heard by every being present, regardless of species or language. My translator didn't even attempt to process it. It didn't need to. She turned slowly, surveying the armies around her. When her gaze passed over me, I felt exposed in a way no battlefield terror had ever managed. As if she could see not just my body, but every choice I had made to bring myself to that moment. You fight over what you believe is power, she continued. Over lines drawn by ancestors long dead. Over resources you cannot consume before you destroy yourselves. She paused, letting the silence stretch. I am Arkhovel, she said. Warden of the Accord. Guardian of the Threshold. The name hit like a physical force. Even without knowing why, everyone understood it mattered. This corridor, Arkhovel went on, is under my protection. It has been for 3,000 of your years. Your presence here is a violation. A Sarek commander found his voice. His translation unit rendered his clicking speech into harsh syllables. No being claims authority over the Dominion. Arkhovel turned toward him. She did not raise her voice. She did not threaten. She lifted 2 fingers. The Sarek commander's armor folded in on itself, not crushing him, not killing him, but pinning him gently to the ground like a child pressed into soft earth. His banner flickered and died. Authority, Arkhovel said calmly, is not claimed. It is demonstrated. Fear rippled through the ranks. I saw it in human faces, in alien stances, in the way even battle-hardened veterans shifted their weight, as if ready to run. Yet no one fired, because deep down, we all knew it wouldn't matter. You have a choice, she said. Withdraw, or remain, and learn why this place must remain untouched. A coalition general attempted diplomacy. If you're a guardian, then negotiate. We can. Arkhovel's gaze snapped to him, and for the first time, I felt something like disappointment radiating from her. You mistake me, she said. I am not here to bargain. She stepped forward. The ground reshaped itself beneath her feet, smoothing, solidifying. With each step, the battlefield seemed less like a war zone and more like an ancient temple being restored. I am here, she said, to remind you. She reached up and removed her helmet. Her face was not alien in the way we expected. Her features were symmetrical, her expression serene but heavy with age, not old, exactly, but timeless. Her eyes shone with a depth that suggested galaxies reflected in their depths. I was once like you, she said, born to a single world, bound to a single species. I fought wars believing they mattered. Images bloomed in the air around her, holographic, yet more vivid than any projection tech. Worlds burned. Fleets collided. Civilizations rose and fell in accelerated succession. I won, Arkhovel said softly. And in winning, I lost everything worth protecting. The images shifted. A lone figure, armored as she was now, standing amid the ruins of countless cultures. So the accord was forged, she continued, to preserve the spaces between empires, to ensure that not every corridor becomes a graveyard. Her gaze swept over us again. You stand at the edge of such a space. No one spoke. Even command had fallen silent. At last, she replaced her helmet. The battlefield seemed to exhale. You will leave, she said. All of you. Your commanders will argue. Your politicians will deny. Your historians will attempt to erase this moment. She turned slightly, her attention lingering on me. But you will remember. The light returned, enveloping her once more. As it faded, so did she, vanishing as abruptly as she had appeared. For several seconds, no one moved. Then, slowly, almost reverently, armies began to withdraw. No shots fired. No parting insults. Just quiet retreat, as if we had all trespassed somewhere sacred and been forgiven once. The war for Caro's Reach ended that day. Officially, it was labeled a strategic reevaluation. Unofficially, it became a myth, a shared hallucination, a glitch in sensor arrays. Anything but the truth. But I remembered. Years passed. I rose in rank. Battles came and went. Borders shifted. Yet the memory of our hovel never faded. It sharpened, haunting my thoughts during quiet moments, during briefings where new corridors were marked for reclamation. Then, one night, alone in my quarters aboard a deep space station far from Caro's Reach, the lights dimmed, the air hummed, and the familiar white-blue glow filled the room. I didn't reach for a weapon. I stood. Our hovel materialized before me, helmet under her arm. You remembered, she said. I swallowed. How could I forget? She studied me with that same penetrating calm. You have tried to change things, she noted. Redirect missions. Delay conflicts. Speak caution where others crave conquest. I haven't done enough, I admitted. No, she agreed gently. But you have done something. She stepped closer. The accord endures only as long as there are those within empires willing to listen. My heart pounded. Why me? Because you dropped your weapon before I asked, she said. Because you saw power and did not reach for it. Silence stretched between us, not uncomfortable, but heavy with possibility. The galaxy is approaching another threshold, our hovel said. One my kind cannot guard alone any longer. I felt a chill. You want humans involved? I want witnesses, she corrected. Stewards. Bridges between fear and understanding. She extended her hand. Will you stand at the next battlefield, she asked, and help ensure that weapons are dropped again? I looked at her hand, then thought of Caro's Reach, the silence, the awe, the fragile peace that followed. Yes, I said. She smiled just slightly. The light rose around us, and somewhere, far away, a future war was quietly undone before it ever began. I never returned to Caro's Reach. No one did. The corridor vanished from official maps within a decade, quietly reclassified under obscure accord clauses that most admirals pretended not to understand. Ships that strayed too close reported navigation errors, time distortions, or a sudden, overwhelming certainty that turning back was the correct choice. Those who listened survived. Those who didn't were never heard from again. As for me, my career ended without ceremony. I declined a promotion that would have placed me in charge of sector-wide offensives. I transferred instead to advisory roles, committees, negotiations, conflict mediation units that most officers considered career dead ends. Yet those dead ends were where wars quietly lost momentum, where first shots were delayed long enough for second thoughts to take root. Sometimes, on the eve of a battle that never happened, I felt her presence. Not as a voice or a vision, but as a weight on the air, steady, watchful, patient. Our hovel never appeared publicly again. But stories spread. On a moon where two fleets faced each other across a frozen plain, sensors failed at the exact moment firing solutions were locked. On a desert world, an ancient ruin surfaced overnight between advancing armies, forcing both sides to stop and wonder who had built it and why. On more than one occasion, Soldiers swore they saw a lone armored figure standing far off, just at the edge of visibility, watching. Weapons were lowered.
Talk began.
The galaxy did not become peaceful. It never does. But it became cautious, as if something vast and ancient had stood up straight and reminded everyone they were being observed. Years later, near the end of my life, I stood alone on an observation deck, watching 1,000 ships move through a corridor that once would have been soaked in blood. The lights dimmed. That familiar white-blue glow appeared one last time. "You did well," Arkavel said, standing beside me, her armor unmarred by time. "We only delayed the inevitable," I replied. She nodded. "Delay is sometimes enough. It gives choice room to breathe." I looked out at the stars. "Will you always intervene?" "No," she said softly. "That is why you mattered." When the light faded, I felt no fear, only gratitude. Somewhere, on some future battlefield, weapons would be raised again. But somewhere else, because of one moment, one appearance, one reminder, they would be dropped. And the galaxy would remember why.